In the next few minutes, you will hear not one original thought. In fact, like all but the most visionary works of human accomplishment, what follows is no expression of complete or even really slight originality, but instead something more like a cover song, a different angle of view upon a widely held opinion that predates me, probably predates you, and will certainly outlive both of us. That opinion being that the SM57 rips ass. Now look, I can chin stroke about originality every day of my life, and I probably will, and it'll apply to every piece of art I'll ever create and every idea that I'll ever think that I've had. But it all bears repeating here when trying to talk about something as ubiquitous as the SM57, which since its invention almost 60 years ago has been used on everything, been used by everyone, and has been, crucially, accessible to pretty much anyone. In the same industry that brings us 4-figure speakers, 5-figure synths, 6-figure mixing desks, here is proof that sometimes we can just have nice things. A genuine industry standard that delivers good to great sound in any circumstance, and that can be had brand new for the price of like a train ticket in the UK. Now here's one of many SM57 takes that you've probably heard in some form or another. It's not perfect on much, but it's good on anything.
No way, he's so brave.
If you had access to every mic on Earth, then you might not reach for this guy so often. Maybe if you had something really loud, like a lot of the time people will use them on guitar cabs or snare drums. But you might not reach for it in a whole load of other situations. However, now imagine that right now you got whisked away to this mysterious trial and you had to record 100 different things. You don't know what any of them are going to be, and you have to pick one microphone to take with you on this Zelda-ass trial. I think it's pretty difficult to argue with the SM57 as a banger choice here, considering that you can get it to sound dependably good, maybe not perfect, but good on anything. So now we can leave this made-up trial idea behind and return to the real world, where, with only a few exceptions, people tend not to have an infinite pool of resources to draw from. In this world, where I, and presumably you, live, it's very difficult to recommend anything that will cover so many bases as this guy. So it's cheap and it's versatile. Cool. But there is another benefit to this thing that is of extreme importance to a home producer. And that is that, just like its dorky younger brother and its weird uncle who got really into brain supplements, this thing is a dynamic microphone. If you're unfamiliar, there are 3 main types of microphone: dynamic, condenser, and ribbon. And without getting too far into the nuts and bolts of how each of those work, suffice it to say that dynamic microphones are by far the least sensitive of these 3. And that might be a bad thing if your studio looks like this or like this, but for you and I, in our rooms that aren't professionally treated, a dynamic mic like the 57 is sensitive enough to pick up my voice in nice, clean quality, but not so sensitive that it's going to pick up the unflattering reverb of this room, or the extractor fan running in the next room over, or the traffic outside. Basically, by using this less sensitive mic, I'm actually ending up with a much cleaner sound than if I was dropping mega money on a super expensive Neumann condenser microphone. Also, these things are tough. You drop your $2,000 Neumann U87 and you will lose sleep over it for weeks. You say a swear word with too much enthusiasm in front of a ribbon mic, and you will watch it spontaneously combust before your very eyes. Meanwhile, here is the SM57, which has survived being dropped, thrown, submerged in water, cooked. This guy decapitated one. It is invincible. Think of the SM57 like a staple food. It's rice, it's potatoes, it's pasta. Delicious and nourishing and versatile and vegan. And yet, despite all these things, somehow also cheap. It's proof that we don't live in a simulation, because if we did, this thing would get nerfed to oblivion. It is the great equalizer, the microphone of the people and of the president, of mere mortals like me, and of Sufjan Stevens. In fact, just like how you can Google any name followed by the hedgehog and generate endless new monstrosities, so too is this thing so ubiquitous that you can look up SM57 next to any instrument or voice or inanimate object, and somebody will have found a way to make it sound great. Honestly, to hold an SM57 in your hands is to find yourself face to face with eternity, knowing that you're holding an object that will outlive you. It's intimidating and humbling to face the abyss in such a direct way, and it speaks to the absolute power of this microphone. How can we even fathom our tiny lives in the face of the huge expanse, not just of an enormous and indifferent cosmos, but of the relentless flow of unending, all-consuming, all-eroding time? What legacy will we even leave behind, not just as people, but as an entire species? Will there be anything left of us once this world ends? Yes. When alien archaeologists arrive to plunder the wreckage that we leave, they will find a few surviving objects. Cast iron skillets, cockroaches, a lingering sense of general malaise, but most impressive of all for our legacy, among all the chemicals and dust and radioactive fallout, they will find countless, fully intact, somehow working SM57s. So hold your $100 microphone tight and be reminded that it's not all for naught. Because of the microphone that you now hold, you can be safe in the knowledge that, in the music of some extraterrestrial civilization millennia in the future, the snare drums and the guitar cabs are going to sound excellent. And everything else will sound pretty good.
So true.
Finally, someone
says it. Never misses.